UFC 306 is just days away, and Dana White just did a press conference after the Contender Series, clarifying a few things about the Sphere. And in this video, we're going to touch upon what Dana White talks about. We're going to address some more concerns that have come to light with this Sphere event on the weekend. Also, we are going to go live this Saturday for this event, so make sure you tune into the live Fight Companion here on this channel. So a few days ago, we were talking about how there's still a lot of seats left available at this event on the weekend, and some of the seats have dropped up to 80%, but a lot of them are still full price. We take a look at this seat here, $4,700. $6,000, that's got to be for two, isn't it? Yeah, that must be for two seats. So $3,300 for the seat. What about these ones over here? $4,400. To be fair, these will be the worst seats because the screen is right here, and that's another problem we're going to address in a minute, is where the octagon is actually placed in this event. It could present some problems, but Dana White so far is saying that this is a success up to now. So let's listen into what he says.
And then just, you know, the 23 million, you said tonight that it was a sellout. So the $23 million, what does that milestone mean for you? Because I think that's what, 6 million more than your previous record. You know, boxing has had those kind of gates, you know, for a long time. Like, so for you to hit past the 20 million mark for the first time, what's the significance of that?
Yeah, it's a big deal, especially on a fight like this. But yeah, you know me. I love to break records. So this is going to be the biggest gate we've ever done in the history of the company, and the most pre-buys on pay-per-view ever too. People buying the event the week before the week of the event. Yeah, as we continue to get closer to Saturday, I'm sure we'll be breaking more records.
So they've hit the first $20 million gate, and I'm sure more sales will trickle in over the course of the next few days. But if you think about it, Dana White has spent $20 million on this event, so just the event itself is only breaking even by the gate, so all the profit is going to be made in the pay-per-view. However, my question is, does the card itself have enough star power with the fighters and good enough fights to be able to pull in that much money for the pay-per-view? Now, Dana White did say that they've sold more pre-buys on the pay-per-view than ever before, so fair play. There's obviously a little bit of intrigue around this card, and when we go live this Saturday, we might all just sit there and be like, wow, this is insane. Our socks might get blown off, but there's definitely some uncertainty surrounding this event, as Dana White expresses right here.
What would you describe your emotions as? Is it excitement to finally show everyone you can back up what you've been saying? Is it nerves like, oh shit, I hope nothing goes wrong? What are the emotions like heading into Saturday?
I'm pretty cool right now. You know, everything's there. All the bells and whistles are in place. Now it's just about rehearsal leading up to this event. Normally, when you change something in your production, right, you would rehearse it, you do it that night, and then you figure out, we didn't like this, we like that, and you start to make tweaks. There will be no tweaking. This is the way this is going to go that night, and it is what it is. And yeah, I'm very comfortable and confident going into this event.
He said there's no tweaking. Once we go into this event, what will be, will be. We can't change anything last minute. Merab, potential cut. What if that gets opened before Saturday in sparring or in training? Maybe Merab staff. What if he doesn't get cleared to fight? If this main event falls apart for whatever reason, hopefully it won't, touch wood it won't, but if it does, they're kind of screwed. What would they do? Because basically how the Sphere works is you can't just get any old footage and project it onto the screen, because it's not just 1080p footage or 4K footage. It's something like 60K footage. I don't know what the resolution is. So they've got to have all of the footage, all the promotional material, and all these movies that Dana White's talking about that they're going to be playing in between fights. They've got to have all that pre-rendered out, ready to play. If one fighter drops out, gets injured, maybe it's a doping issue. You know what these friggin' Russians, well, Merab's Georgian, but whatever, same thing. You know, they're all popping for gear right now. If Merab pops for gear, they're screwed, because they can't just replace Merab with a different fighter and then have all the footage good to go for them as well. Although, I guess they could. I think if Merab pulls out of this fight, what you do is you get Brandon Moreno to replace him. Brandon Moreno is actually a Mexican, got a bit of pulling power, got a bit of superstar power, and this fight card is meant to be for Mexican Independence Day. Now, of course, the UFC will most likely have some sort of contingency plan, so they probably do have a couple fighters there in the wings, ready to go, who haven't been allowed to say anything, with all their footage also pre-rendered out just in case someone drops out. I can most likely guarantee that, because what are they going to do if a fighter drops out? They're not going to have enough time to create new footage and render it out to put on the big screen. So it's just an interesting question. Right now, in one of our last videos covering this event, we learned that they're going to have vibrating seats. And we joked around in that video and we said, maybe if someone gets taken down, are your seats going to vibrate? Well, yes, that's going to happen. Dana White clarifies right here.
There's haptic devices in the seat?
Yes.
So is that going to be used in between during the movies or actually during the fights too?
The audio in this place is, you can't even compare it to anywhere else. The audio is incredible. And yes, the haptics in the seats, when there are slams, when there are things that are happening in the movies, you'll feel it in the seats. There's 10,000 seats that have it. So 10,000 people will have that experience during the show that night.
That's mad, isn't it? I was saying in my last video, imagine sitting there with your popcorn, your hot dog, drinking your beer. As you're taking a sip, Marab picks Sean O'Malley up, oh jeez, dumps him on his head. He'd be like, spill your bevy all over you. Sounds like a fun time. And don't get me wrong, I think if we were all there for this event, I do think the experience itself would be amazing. Worth $4,400. It's a bit debatable when you look at the fights on the card. Now, the reason why this card isn't too stacked is because maybe Dana White's head is not in the right place. Maybe his motives are all screwed up. Is he more interested in making the best fight cards possible, or the best live event possible, or something much deeper? Dana White right here talks about his motives behind putting this event on. Check this out.
So my goal in this thing is to be nominated for an Oscar, an Emmy, and a Grammy. So yes, there will be a documentary.
Oh, damn. Dana White's doing this all for his ego. He's more concerned about getting his Oscar, his Grammy, his Emmy, than he is putting on a good fight card. So we know that Dana White, really, he's probably thinking about retiring, and he's trying to go out with a bang in terms of his legacy. He's more interested right now on putting on the spectacle type fights. And listen, as a business owner, I don't blame him. If we were all in Dana White's situation and you was presented with tens and tens of millions and legacy stuff like Oscars and Emmys and all that, come on, we'd all do the same. Let's not all sit on our high horses and be like, oh, Dana White's this, Dana White's that. A lot of people on YouTube give Dana White a lot of grief, hey, and I give him a bit of grief here and there. I try and be fairly unbiased, but people make Dana White into the enemy for certain reasons, and all I think is, well, all right, you try running a multi-billion-dollar company with 1,000 staff members and also not be motivated by money. Everyone sits up there on the high horse, oh, share the wealth, share the wealth. Shut up. You won't even lend your mate a $5 without reminding him over and over, hey, remember, you owe me a $5. Anyway, regardless of all that, the point is, Dana White's motives are questionable here. Is he doing it for the Oscar, Emmy, and Grammy? Is that the main motive behind this whole Sphere card? I'm just saying that if so, it makes sense why the card itself is a bit lackluster. And also, they're putting on like 40 events a year. If 10 of them are crap, 10 of them are somewhat decent, average, and then 20 of them are incredible, I'm not going to hold a few crap events against somebody. And this isn't even glazing here. I'm just saying you've got to give a little bit of wiggle room. It's not always going to go our way. I know the fans are the most important thing. As much as I want this event to be better because I'm staying up till 6, 7 a.m. and I've got a friggin' life outside of YouTube, I accept that not every single fight card can be great. This might be one of them. I also could be completely wrong. This might be an absolute epic fight card. Although some of the fighters aren't that well known stylistically, I trust in the UFC to do the thing. The matchmaking is usually pretty top notch. Now also the reporter with balls, Kevin Ioli, is back once again to actually ask the only hard-hitting question of this press conference.
And then the last question, you had referenced when we talked last week about people saying UFC 300 sucked. I actually did a call and saying, does UFC 300 suck? Because so many people were saying that. Now,
who's saying UFC 300 sucked? UFC 300 was one of the best cards ever, you could argue. It was incredible.
So many people were saying the Sphere is a flop. It hasn't happened yet. But at UFC 300, you had 11 former champions, and you had a lot of veteran fighters on that card. And so they dealt with the pressure of the big event, and they delivered. On this card, you don't have those kind of veteran fighters. Do you have any concern at all? You always say the fighters deliver, but do you have any concern at all that the moment may be too big for some of the younger fighters that you have on the card that don't have the experience that an Alex Pereira and et cetera had?
Right.
Great question. I really like this Kevin Ioli. He used to work for Yahoo Sports, didn't he? But he actually asks really good questions. Is the problem with having all these young, unknown fighters on the cards, is it going to be too much pressure for them? UFC 300 was a star-studded event. You can say whatever you want about UFC 300. It was incredible, but it was also incredible on paper. So when you looked at the entire fight card, it was banger after banger after banger. Fights from the bottom of the early prelims right the way through to the top. The Sphere card on paper is awful. It's actually bad. Now, it might actually play out better than it is on paper. That can certainly happen. But to say UFC 300 was a flop is an absolute ridiculous statement. So let's see what Dana White says.
25 years, event after event, 100, 200, 300, all the shit talk about 300, and then as soon as it's over, it's great. I don't listen to any of this shit. I said this to Morgan the other day. All the experts and all the experts are in that fucking building next door. Shut the fuck up, sit back, and watch.
Okay, Dana, I'm going to shut the F up. No, I'm not yet. Now, there was one other thing I wanted to talk about, and I've been thinking about this for the last couple of weeks, but I just haven't got it out, and I haven't really seen anyone else talking about it. I don't really watch MMA YouTubers, but where the cage is located, right here, this is footage from the U2 concert. It looks incredible. So this is the screen right back here. It looks really, really good. So the octagon is going to be down here. I think this is going to look absolutely epic, by the way. But will it throw the fighters off when you're right here in the octagon and then 20 feet, 30 feet away from you is an absolute gigantic screen with yourself on it? Imagine fighting in the octagon there, and in your peripheral vision, all you can see is every move you make is something moving up here. So you throw a jab and it's moving at the same time. Surely that's going to be a distraction for the fighters. The fighters are going to have to be absolutely tuned in. And then imagine that you're trying to fight someone and behind your opponent is a huge, massive screen with you on it. I can imagine that to be highly distracting. All it takes is one little look up at the screen. Whoa, that's incredible. All of a sudden you get taken down or you get KO'd. That's interesting. I wonder if that'll happen. In fact, if I was fighting on this card, I'd look out for my opponent, briefly looking up at the screen, try and capitalise and time them looking up. Very interesting anyway. I am really intrigued into this Sphere event. Honestly, guys, I'll give Dana White a little bit of credit here, because if it wasn't the Sphere event, I probably wouldn't be too excited to stay up for this full fight card. Because it's the Sphere, I am somewhat intrigued into how it's going to go down. And what you guys think? Comment your thoughts down below. We're a few days away. We're going to go live. Oh, and also my first fitness video is now out. Go and check that out on my new channel. Super informative video. Completely different style to these type of videos. And yeah, I think you'll like it. Anyway, nice one. See you tomorrow.